Breaking news, Jalen Hurts listed as doubtful versus the Saints. It appears he will miss Sunday's game, but can Gardner Minshew pull the troops together and go clinch the #1 seed? What is going on, everyone? RB here. Welcome into A to Z Philly, your #1 home for Eagles coverage. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoy this content and subscribe to A to Z Philly on YouTube. Today we are back and the Eagles prepare to take on the Saints. And to be honest, we've been hearing a lot of injury updates and rumors and reports today, but the team has done a pretty good job throughout this week keeping it on the down low. However, on the latest Friday injury report today, Jalen Hurts is actually being listed as doubtful, and according to some NFL reporters and Eagles reporters, there's been nobody this year listed as doubtful who has actually suited up on game day. So we are trending towards Jalen Hurts sitting out yet another game. It looks like the Eagles are back rocking with the Minshew train, but can he get the job done? What does this mean? How will this game play out? We will break all of that down. Now, I want to provide some context on what Nick Sirianni said, because again, the Eagles still have not officially ruled out Jalen Hurts. This is mostly speculation, but it seems like we're trending towards him sitting out. But here's what Nick Sirianni said earlier today, according to Adam Schefter. Here was the quote from Nick Sirianni. "We're still sorting through it. Obviously, Jalen Hurts had a good practice yesterday and went out and looked like he did some things really well. So still going to sort through all those things. Haven't decided anything yet." Maybe a little mind game here in terms of strategy, right? Trying to have them prepare for Jalen Hurts, even if they know he's not going to play. But then when we see what Tim McManus said not too long ago here, he says the Eagles plan to rest Jalen Hurts against the Saints. The decision came down to a health and safety issue, sources said, as Sirianni referenced today. Tim McManus says Hurts' functionality in his shoulder has progressed to a point where the team expects him back on the field soon. And we've been seeing all these videos all week, which we're covering here on A to Z Philly, and Jalen Hurts is practicing with the one. So there is still a slim chance he could play. I think the Eagles look at this game, though, and say, we can go beat the Saints with Gardner Minshew. I think Nick Sirianni thinks that this team has what it takes to go clinch the #1 seed and to give Jalen Hurts another week of rest. Some more context on the situation from Jeff McLean, Eagles reporter. He says Gardner Minshew deferred to Nick Sirianni when asked if he will be the starting quarterback on Sunday, and says that he got most of the quarterback reps this week per several player interviews. And Reuben Frank, another update here, just as a side note, as we've been talking about Miles Sanders this entire week. He says Miles Sanders practiced with a brace on his left knee, said it stabilizes his knee, but he's getting better and isn't sure he'll have to wear it in the game, said he's never worn one in a game situation. So that is good to hear. It seems Miles Sanders will be okay, and he is trending towards playing. But what does this mean for the Eagles? Because let's just go with the assumption that Jalen Hurts will miss this game, and I believe he will. We've been saying this all week, though. This is a must-win game. The Eagles need to wrap up the #1 seed this week. They need to go out and beat the Saints. You do not want this coming down to a thriller in Week 18 against a hungry Giants team that's trying to scratch its way into the playoffs. You want to come out here and dominate this game. The way that I think the Eagles view this is that the defensive side of the ball is going to get better. And that usually happens in terms of a response from Jonathan Gannon. It happened even after the Washington game earlier this year. Usually when Jonathan Gannon gets criticized for a lack of, rushing more than 4, or, if he gets criticized for a lack of, aggressiveness with the corner play, usually he makes those adjustments and he comes out right away and starts, making a spark right away or making a splash. That's usually what happens with Jonathan Gannon. And I do believe he has heard all the noise this week after that Dallas performance, giving up 40 points. I know Avonte Maddox is going to be out this week, Lane Johnson again. So the Eagles are still banged up, but I believe this team is going to come out with force, and they do not want to let it get to a Week 18 matchup. And I think Jonathan Gannon is going to put together a good game plan this week. I actually do. And I think the Eagles match up pretty well against the Saints. So with all that being said, if Gardner Minshew can just play the way he played last week and the Eagles limit 1 or 2 turnovers, I'm not saying you don't have to play a clean game, but 4 turnovers, that is not characteristic of the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's pretty much the main reason that the Eagles lost that game. They were in position to beat the Cowboys with a backup quarterback. They just turn the ball over at inopportune times. And I think the Eagles believe they can win this game with Gardner Minshew. You look at the New Orleans Saints, right? Andy Dalton is their quarterback. He's been decent. That's all he really is. He's an average quarterback. A lot of the weapons are banged up for the Saints. Their whole team is essentially derailed with injuries this year. Kamara's kind of anchoring the running game by himself. He is, up total around 1,100 yards, 700 plus on the ground, but he's only averaging 3.9 yards a carry. Kamara's not going to give you those big chunk plays, and the Eagles have a massive defensive line. They just have a defensive line that's literally making history at this point. Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Hargrave, Fletch, BG, all these guys. And I just don't see a way they're going to get much going in terms of rhythm on the offensive side. And you look at the Saints playoff situation, as we talked about earlier in the week, they need a couple things to even happen first before they have a chance to make the playoffs. Obviously, they need to win out. So they will come out on fire this game until they're mathematically eliminated. I just don't see a way they can really get much accumulated here. Like I said, Kamara averaging less than 4 yards a carry. Michael Thomas is out with the toe injury. Obviously, they have the young kid in Olave, but Andy Dalton is nothing special. You start pressuring him, you keep him inside that pocket, and he gets a little bit nervous. Then on the defensive side of the ball, if Gardner Minshew can just take his time, find some rhythm going down the field, doesn't have to go with those big chunk plays. He can once in a while, and he will take a few shots, which, as we saw, it ultimately led to a couple turnovers last week. I'm not going to say they were his fault mainly, but Gardner Minshew should be able to pick apart the Saints defense. They are in the lower half, even the lower third in the NFL in terms of passing defense. Lattimore is their leader, but you look at the other guys on the roster, and even Lattimore is banged up. They just don't have a sound roster right now. And I mean, the Saints team is on their last limb. Really, the only playmaker, I guess, to be worried about up front is Cam Jordan. We know his talent. Even him, he's only has 5.5 sacks on the season. So I personally believe that the Eagles should be able to handle business. I think if we take last week out of context, the Eagles have had a really splendid season, and they have a really solid roster. And even if Gardner Minshew is the quarterback, you look at Sanders, who should be good to go. Boston Scott, Gainwell, yes, they coughed up the ball a couple times. They're not going to do that every game. The Philadelphia Eagles will put together a sound game plan. Then you have the two 1,000-yard receivers. You have Dallas Goedert. You have so many things that can pick apart a defense like the New Orleans Saints. We're going to see a lot of guys utilized this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if Gardner Minshew comes out and wins the game by 15 points. I don't think it's going to be a squeaker. I think there have been some overreactions this past week because of how it looked, because it was against the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Eagles will be okay, and I think they come out here, win this game, and then they have 2 weeks to rest. It's important. You have to get your guys healthy. Obviously, Maddox being out is going to hurt. Lane Johnson, you need him back healthy. Who knows what he's going to look like come playoff time, but everybody else needs to stay healthy, right? You need everybody else to push you through this game to get it done and to get the win. It is important. You don't want this coming down to the last few minutes of a Week 18 game. That is why I'm saying that I would have played Jalen Hurts if he is healthy, but apparently there's still a little bit of discomfort, or else he would have ended up suiting up and playing. I just hope that the injury is not worse than they're making it out to be. That's my main hope right now, because come playoff time, Jalen Hurts needs to be 100%. He is going to take this team as far as they will go. So we will see how it plays out. There's nobody that really scares me or is fully healthy on the New Orleans Saints. I think the Eagles can come out, play their game, and I think the key will be Jonathan Gannon generating a lot more pass rush, especially against Andy Dalton. I don't think he will pick the Eagles apart all day, and I wouldn't be surprised if we rack up 5, 6, 7 sacks in this game. So we will see how it all plays out. Those are just my thoughts on the game. We'll wait to see what the actual update is, whether they announce it tomorrow or right before game time. Who knows? But it seems as of now that Minshew will be the guy. Do you have confidence in him winning this game and clinching the number 1 seed for the Philadelphia Eagles? Give me all your thoughts down below in the comment section. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And like always, I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.